that, and the other. Hi everybody, I'm your host Danny C. Fletcher. This is my guest Curtis McKinney. Curtis, how you doing, sir?
Doing great, Danny. It's nice to be here.
We're going to talk about this, that, and the other. That's the name of the show.
I dig it.
Yeah, because I don't know what I'm going to ask, and I don't know what you're going to say, so it's this, that, and the other. Hey, there's so much to talk about with you. I mean, there's a lot of questions I want to ask you. But why don't we start like I always do from the beginning, where you were born and kind of go through high school up to when you started doing gigs like you do. Then we're going to get in your radio career and all that.
Man, I was born in Chicago. My family moved here when I was like 3 years old to Carlsbad. And so I was raised here, and a lot of good friends here, a lot of good people in Carlsbad. You know, it's a great place. Went to high school here at Carlsbad High. And then I went to, you know, back then it was different than now, you know, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. My dad was, you know, mom and dad were amazing, but my dad was always that guy that would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and he went out to, you know, the mines for a long time. Then he worked at WIP, retired out there. But me and my buddies would be up still playing video games, you know, and he'd get up and you need to get your ass out and get a job, you know, and I kind of floundered around for a while. Wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I finally went to work at the district court, and I was their computer guy for 17 years or so. At district court. Yeah, wow. I did their networking, and I built servers and all that stuff. And I was there 17 years, but in the process, you know, I always had a love for music since I was really little, you know, and I was a pseudo drummer. I wasn't very good, but I always had drums and played, you know, and when I was probably 12 or 13 something, I used to set washcloths out on the bed. I knew how the drums were supposed to sound. I didn't have any drums, and I would get screwdrivers and I would play those wash rags with records. And
how cute.
And you know, one day my dad bought me a guitar, which you know, whoever plays guitar, man, they're phenomenal, because I just never got it, you know. But he bought me a guitar, and of course I didn't know anything about it. Oh gosh, sorry. Didn't know anything about it. I told him one of my friends was selling a drum set, and so he took me over there and he said, well, if you can play me something on the drums, I'll buy it for you. And of course I'd been playing wash rags for like, you know, a year probably. So I sit down and played a little beat, wasn't very good, but he bought me the kit. I started playing drums. Did some high school band stuff, you know, things like that. But worked for the court. I started getting into music, and it's just been a wild ride, you know. I remember I wanted to do a concert in Carlsbad. There was really nothing going on.
You wanted to promote a concert?
I wanted to promote a concert. I didn't know anything about it at all, you know, and nothing was going on in Carlsbad back then. This was years and years ago. So Aaron's Rent-to-Own had just opened. That's how long ago that was. And so I talked to the store manager and I said, hey, why don't you let me do a concert in your parking lot? And so he said, okay. I was broke, seriously broke. And so I started putting this concert together with some local guys, and I brought in a couple of bands from out of town I was going to. And I thought, boy, this is going to be easy. You know, this is gravy. I went to advertise it on the radio, and I had a pretty eye-opening experience. When you go in and they're like, yeah, it's like $2,000, you know.
Money for that.
Yeah, and I had no money, right? No money. Just this big grand idea that I was going to have this real cool concert. And so I was talking to Don Hughes at Carlsbad Radio, and he told me how much it cost, and I'm like, well, there's no way I can pay that, you know. He said, well, if I have a slot open on Friday night, you can pay me like $300, and I'll give you a show, and you can go like, you know, 4 hours every Friday night, and you can talk about whatever you want.
Wow.
And well, I had no aspirations of being in radio at all. You know, it was just kind of a fluke thing, and I went in and I started.
You paid Don.
I paid Don. Yeah, I went in and paid Don, and so I started doing. I looked around. Everything in Carlsbad was country music, And so I figured I would do a rock show. I was raised on country music, you know, so I wanted to do something different. So I did an active rock show. And it was really popular really fast because there was nothing like that here. And so we were on the air for a few months, and Will Rooney from 107, it was Coyote 107 at the time, called me up and he said, hey man, what do you think about coming to 107? And he said, you don't have to pay me anything. You can just come over and we're not going to pay you either, but you can come over and do the show. You know, bigger audience, you know, more territory. And I said, that'd be fantastic. So I went to 107. The show did really well there. I think I won like DJ of the year or something that year.
Now, what was the show called?
It was called The Metal Shop at the time.
Okay.
And the only reason it was called that was because I was fixing to go on the air and I couldn't think of a name for the show, and it just kind of spewed out right the first time I went live, you know. So we started doing the show over there, and gosh, it started doing well, you know. And like I said, we won some broadcaster awards and things. And one day, this guy was driving through Carlsbad to the caverns, and he owned some stations like in Nevada, and I had Brad Hennington with me. You know, without Brad, you know, there is no show, right?
So Brad was on the air with you?
He was on the air. He was my co-host, you know, and we gelled so well, man. This guy is so talented.
Now, did Brad live here at the time?
No, he lived in Nevada at the time. He was in Las Vegas. And so this guy talks to us about putting us on there. And he took our show from here and, you know, simulcast it over there. And then the next thing I knew, man, we got an offer to syndicate, and we did. And
how'd that offer come around?
I don't know, really. I really don't. It was just kind of a crazy fast ride, you know.
It's not easy to accomplish, to get on a national network.
No, it's really not. And next thing I knew, they were talking to us about it, and we were I was nervous, you know. Brad was nervous, and you know, we knew at that point if we got into this, we were married to it, you know. And but we did it. We were on like 180 stations or something. You know, then we started doing well, and the show took off. And
what network were you on?
Well, we were on FM stations. I mean, we weren't on a clear channel, or you know, it was more independent FM stations is what we took. But
a premier.
No, you know, one of the things about you know, like iHeart and all of that. Now down the road, iHeart started broadcasting us, you know, but that way later.
Sure.
We even talked to Sirius at one time. They talked to us about going on Sirius. But one of the things about that was they didn't want us to be on FM. You know, the person we talked to back then that was chatting with us said, you'll have to drop all your FM stations. And I didn't want to do that because we had, you know, kind of come up with these FM stations. So I thought it was pretty crappy to just leave them all,
right.
You know. So we didn't do that. We stayed on FM. Gosh, we started getting nominated for all kinds of stuff, you know, the LA Music Awards and Rock Radio Awards. We were up for DJ of the Year and New York Music Awards. And
so your first network, this network of FMs that you were on, it was a rock format?
Rock format, yeah. We broke out in rock because that's what we were doing. We changed the name. Well, actually, we started to get sued, right? We were called the Metal Shop. Metal Shop Live is what we called ourselves. Well, when we broke out and we started getting on all these stations, right? There was a guy, I think his name's Charlie Kendall, I believe was his name. He had a show called Metal Shop on MTV or something like in the early 80s. And I remember watching it, cool show. So our lawyer got a letter, you know, and said, hey man, you're using the name and he owns the copyright. But what was funny about that was when we started going out, the copyright had expired, right? The trademark, whatever. And he filed for it, and then send us a cease and desist or pay him to use the name, right?
Sure.
And so we talked around and we negotiated back and forth, and we ended up changing the name to Cranked Up Live. And so that's where that came from. And I was really worried that that was going to hurt us, but it didn't. It kind of got bigger, kind of got us out of that niche of metal, which we really weren't.
How'd you come up with Cranked Up Live?
It was funny because we were really struggling with it, and a buddy of mine, Steve Page, he's in a band in Dallas called Rivethead, and he came up with it. He's British, and he's like, "Hey, about Cranked Up Live would be amazing," and I'm like, "Yeah, it would be." So,
right.
So we took that, and we went, and we had a good, about a 12-year run. I got really burnt out on it for a little while, and I told Brad, I said, I want to take a break. And, we were probably, we were one of the biggest rock shows in the country. And I got to see a lot of stuff. I got to be a lot of places and meet a lot of people. You grow up here and you're listening to like Motley Crue and, Dokken and all these guys. And it was kind of surreal. I did some red carpets with like Nikki Sixx and, some of these guys that I grew up listening to and got to be in the same room with him and as a colleague, because he was on the radio too at the time. So it was really exciting. That kind of stuff was really exciting.
So you got to go to the rock parties.
Oh gosh, I remember one time we were at the Rock Radio Awards in Las Vegas, Brad and I, and we were at the Hard Rock, and the award show was like the next day, and there was a big concert that night, and we were sitting there doing the concert and watching the concert, and probably had way too much to drink. That's something else, man. Like you can really get an alcohol problem when you're in the business, right? But we're sitting there, we drank quite a bit, and just somebody came up and handed me an envelope at our table and said, "Hey, you've been invited to this." And I just kind of set it down the table, and we finished the concert and everything. And afterwards, it was this is a really cool story. I opened it, and it was an invitation to this suite at the Hard Rock. Right. And didn't say what it was.
To a private party.
Private party. We didn't know what it was. So Brad and I, and we had an entourage with us, and we go to the front desk because we didn't know where this room was in the Hard Rock. And I asked the lady, I said, "Hey, where can we go to?" And keep in mind, I'm tipsy, right, at this point. I said, "Where is this?" And she laughed. It doesn't exist. And so I'm like, "Oh, somebody's pranking us, And then this other guy that was there saw it, and he goes, "Oh, no, I'd come with me." And he takes us to this, like...
So she didn't even know about it?
Didn't even know about it.
At the desk?
No. So this guy... I know what it is. So he takes us to this elevator that was kind of off the beaten path, and we go way up and walk down this long hallway, and there's this huge dude at the door, and he's like, "Hey, you can't be here," and of course I'm drunk, and I'm like, "But I have this," and he's like, "Oh, sorry, come on in," and so I walk in and I look over, and there's like Scott Ian from Anthrax and Eddie Trunk, which is one of the greatest radio guys ever, and all these people, and come to find out it was an Anthrax after party. And so we got to hang out and
sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
I've never done drugs, man. I've never done drugs in my life.
Yeah, but you don't let them.
Oh yeah, no. I did drink alcohol like they weren't going to make it anymore, and I think part of all of that, I drank a lot of Jack Daniels. That was kind of my vice, and when you're in all of that, right, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Never did anything else, but I kind of realized about, I don't know, maybe 12 years ago or so, I'm like, I've got to stop this, and so I quit drinking, and then it seemed like things,
got clear?
They got clear, because when you're doing all of this, I found there was a time that I'd be sitting around with my buddies like this. We'd be sitting around watching TV, and I would, you're making money, you've got all this stuff, right? And I'd be sitting there and I'd say, "Man, we should charter a plane and go to Dallas and have some hibachi tonight. And we would, and I would pay for it all, and we would fly, and we would eat, and then we'd go to the club and party all night, and then fly back the next day, and hell, I'd drop 10, 15 grand, just like, and it's like, I was really stupid about stuff like that, and I didn't think about it, because you're living that.
You get caught up in the lifestyle.
You do, you really do. And then there's Brad living in Las Vegas, and he's hanging at the bar with Vince Neil and all these guys, and it was really cool, man. It was a cool vibe, but it really led the way to the concerts and I really, while radio was, we kind of fell into it, I really wanted to do concerts and be a promoter, yeah, and so I started breaking into that, from that first concert at Aaron's, which we finally pulled off, by the way, but it was, probably not the greatest, but it was cool. A lot of people showed up.
So you and Brad got together and you talked to him and said, let's go promote concerts.
Exactly, yeah.
Where was your first one?
Well, gosh, man, there's been so many. Yeah, there's been a lot. The Aaron's one I remember because it was very first one.
You broke.
It broke. Well, I mean, dude, broke, like for real broke. Yeah, we started. I did some stuff in Lubbock. I remember. So we're kind of hit and miss. I don't know what I'm doing. When you start breaking into the business, into the concert business, it's a really small industry. So everybody knows everybody, even though you don't probably personally know them, but you know who they are, and
Right.
when they start bringing somebody, when you come in new, it's like these agents and stuff, it seems like they intentionally try and get you out. It's like a club that.
And they probably try to stick it to you, too.
Oh my God, yes. So I learned.
It's not sometimes a nice business.
It's a shark business, man. It's the worst business you could ever want to be in. I mean, I'll just put it out there like that. It's.
If you're gonna do something, Curtis, do the hardest, the trickiest thing.
Well, you've promoted shows. It's and not, it's not just the show. It's the. You're thinking about the toilets and the toilet paper and the cleaning it up, and and people go to these concerts and they'll have a Coke and they throw it on the ground, and and you're the one that has to get paid to clean all that up, But we were doing some concerts in Lubbock, and we started kind of getting a grip on it. We had some agents really trying to break us. I always say, if you want to be a promoter, have your money together and be willing to lose all of it. And if you're not willing to lose all of it and get past like the initial hazing, so to speak, you're not going to make it. And
you might as well go to Vegas and
let it ride on red.
Let it ride on red.
Yeah. I book shows. One of the worst burnings I ever got, I'll tell you, it was Sinbad, the comedian, but I'll tell you about that later. So we were doing these concerts and everything, and I was doing a Tesla show. I was part of a Tesla show in Lubbock. And I wanted to bring them to Carlsbad too. And so I went to the Civic Center here. And I walked in, and that's where I met Guy Lubman. And I walked in, and I sat down with him, and I wanted to rent the place. And that just went terrible. He wouldn't talk to me, really. He talked to me, and then he gave me a lecture about how over my head I was, and this wasn't for me. And
I know of him, but I've never met him.
I guess, I'm not going to say anything bad about Guy. He, he just was like, not interested in working with me, which I guess maybe I understand because he didn't know who I was or anything. And, I was still pretty green, but I was doing shows. I did have a show over there, I wanted to bring here. Ended up not working out for Carlsbad. But what it did do was me and him kind of got in a little argument there. And so I set my sights on wanting to have the Civic Center.
One thing I found out about you, Curtis, like the song, "Don't Back Down."
I had no aspirations running the Civic Center either. It was like that conversation, It kind of made me feel like, if this is going to happen to me, how many other people is it happening to? And so that's where it came from. So I started kind of looking at what it takes to get in there, right? And I started talking to people. They wanted to do an audit or something. It just blew up, and anyway, he was gone. And
Hey, they needed someone else.
they needed someone else. I actually called up Robert Young. Great guy, man. Taught me so much. He was more of the business guy, right? I was more of the promoter guy, and I called him up and I said, because I knew he was putting in for the contract, and I told him, I said, man, I'm putting in for it too. I'm not going to get it, obviously, because, who wants a tattooed dude up in there, running for the city, right? And we talked for a while, and he said, well, if I get it, we'll run it together. And, you can come and help me out, and you can book the stuff, and I'll run all the business end of it, and I said, that'd be awesome. And so that's what happened. He got it. I went with him, and God, he taught me so much, man. The guy is so smart.
So he taught you the insides of the
Oh, yeah, the business part of it. And, he owns Just Dance Studio, and the guy is, him and his wife both, just incredibly smart, right? Showed me, lighting and just all kinds of stuff. And I would go to him and I would pitch some crazy idea, and he'd sit me down and be like, okay, look, that's great, but,
Did he teach you the sound too?
I've never claimed to be a sound guy, and
Wow, you're a great sound guy.
it's, there's so much to being a sound guy.
Oh, yeah.
I can operate a soundboard. A lot of people claim they're a sound guy, but they're not. They can, kind of like me, I can turn it on and make it play, but when an artist is like, I need more hi-hat, it's not me, I don't get it. Yeah, so after Robert's run, when he was ready to step down, then my company put in, and we ended up getting it. I had a pretty good run out there.
How long were you out there at the City Center?
Gosh, I want to say it all kind of runs together. It was probably a decade or so, close.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. We did a lot of cool shows. When we got that place, man, it was so ran down, and it was basically like just a storage facility. We did a lot of cool concerts out there, and I feel like we brought it back, to life when COVID hit. That kind of put the kibosh to all of that, and
then under your watch too, didn't you have that storm?
Oh yeah, boy, that was terrible. Roof collapsed. That big Goliath snowstorm collapsed the whole back roof.
And the city at the time wasn't in a hurry to fix it.
They weren't. They wanted to fix it, but there was a. It seems like I was always fighting to. I wanted to update the parking lot, and I wanted to put lighting out, and I wanted to paint the building and get it off that stupid yellow
What an idea.
look.
What a concept.
Heck, I even wanted to sell the naming rights to it, and call it the Oxy Coliseum or whatever, but they were pretty stuck on Walter Gerald's, which I understand, but it's, I think we really turned it around, but they were up in the air. There were some city councilors that wanted to sell it. There was some that wanted to fix it. There was some that, and so it was kind of in limbo for a while. But
I don't know for sure, so don't anybody hold me to this, but I think that's still going on.
It may be. I don't know.
Yeah.
I know when COVID hit, they basically said, we don't know if we'll ever open it again. We're canceling your contract, and so they did, and then the next thing I knew, they put like the janitor or something. I think maintenance guy is running it now, I think.
I'm not sure who they have.
But yeah, and it's been I watch it. I still get calls about it, and I try to separate myself from it a little bit, and but we were doing we were doing concerts all over the country. I was really fortunate to have good people with me. You know, there was always good people on the crew, and you know, everybody worked hard, and like I'd get a gig in Daytona or gosh, you know, Oklahoma or wherever it may be, and you know, I'd always bring all the guys with me, and they all worked hard. It was fun times, you know. It was a lot of fun times. We did some really cool shows.
Now, when you say we did a lot of concerts and stuff on the road, and I know you have, but did you produce a concert, just do the stage and the lighting, the sound, or did you do them from scratch up?
We would do them. Well, it would depend on where it was. Like during Bike Week in Daytona, I think there was nine shows that we were involved with. Some we were doing production, some we did from the ground up. You know, like Oklahoma, we would do from the ground up. You know, like the Snoop concert or whatever. And so it just depended on the client, right? Because we would get hired out. Sometimes we'd be a consultant. We would help people design their festival or whatnot, or I would. And then, you know, there's other times that we would take the whole crew and build the whole stage and whatnot.
The stage, the sound.
The sound, lighting, you know, we would hire folks in that town to come in and do what they wanted to do. You know, hundreds of shows. It was a lot. There was a lot of shows. You know,
You're still doing a lot of that?
I've decided now, you know,
I'm going to get to what you're going to do here, or when you started, but
you know, so here's what happened. It was COVID hit, all that stuff. My mom had Parkinson's, but she had a different form of Parkinson's. Instead of shaking, she was locking up, right, and losing her voice. And she could, you know, I was blessed because I met Melissa, right, and. You know, because I was kind of aimless, right? You know, and I heard everything about me. Man, he's an asshole. He's
I heard all that.
He's a womanizer. He's this. He's that. He's an alcoholic. He's, you know, everything. You know, most of it wasn't true. Some of it is, but a lot of it's not. You know, I met Melissa, and we started seeing each other, and you know, eventually we got married. But it changed my whole life. You know, like really, for real, changed my whole life.
I have heard that in the few years I've known you. I've seen that. She's an amazing woman.
Oh man, you know, she came in. It was really something because, you know, she came in and she told me, like, we lived together like a week, and she said, "We got to move your mom in. You know, she's not," because my dad got cancer at the same time. Oh. So here's my dad with cancer, my mom with this, you know, just horrible disease. And she said, "Your dad is sick himself, you know, so we need to move her in," right? So I'm like, "You've been here 5 minutes, you know, you don't want to take that, on."
And you want to move my parents in?
Yeah, I'm like, you know, like that's a big thing, you know?
Yeah.
And not that me and my mom were like that. I mean, biggest fan, you know.
It is something you were probably thinking of, but you just
get
this woman and get in a relationship and try to
exactly
make things going. You didn't want to.
Things are hard enough, you know, in relationships without that.
Right.
But of course I wanted to, you know, and a lot of my family just, of course, when somebody gets sick, they just disappear. You know, it's like everything, you know, like so.
Well, there's work to be done, or responsibility. I'm going.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. Like there's a lot of them I don't speak to this day over that. But I told her, I said, "It's going to be really tough. You know, are you sure?" And she said yes. And we brought her in, and man, I mean, Melissa bathed her, fed her, everything. You know, and in the meantime, my dad's having cancer treatments in Lubbock, and I'm driving him to Lubbock twice a week. And, you know, so I'm gone to Lubbock twice a week with him. She's taking care of her. That went on for about a year, you know, and then my mom passed away at my house. And then my dad, he had the surgery finally and everything, so he's doing better, but he still suffers from it.
Right.
So now, it's kind of the same thing with him. Melissa just, man, she cooks and cleans his house and all this stuff. But I started. I guess the point of my story is, when I saw, I knew I loved her, right? But like when I saw how selfless she was about everything, it was just like, man, she's the one. I know she's the one. And it was the first time ever in my life, because I'd been married before, I'd dated women before, whatever. Never really gave a crap much, and I was pretty selfish, man. I really was. This time it was like, she's it, man. That's it. And it's been since then, amazing.
How'd you figure out that she was the one? Because I know, like I said, you've been married before and doing what you do. Had a lot of women you dated.
She was just so, like I said, selfless, man. She was so caring about, she didn't know my mom, she didn't know my mom and dad. And to just take my mom in and do everything she did, and just see how she is with everybody, with everybody. She's that way. And
she offered.
And she offered. And, and then I'm sitting here looking at her, like, we're learning each other, and she'd been married before too, and, in an abusive relationship, and this guy broke her neck, and she's got like metal in her neck, and still suffers to this day from it, and I look at her and I'm like, how could anybody do that, to anybody, but much less, she's just aces, changed my life, but when all of that was going on, I laid off the concert stuff because I felt like,
But you didn't totally lay off. You do some shows.
I still did Hogfest.
Okay. Yeah. We're gonna talk about Hogfest in a bit, but
but other than that, not really. I didn't really do anything else because I didn't have time to do anything else. It was a full-time job with mom and dad, and it was at that time, it seems like that's when everybody kind of wrote me off, and the phone calls stopped coming, people stopped, just coming around,
that was really timely of them because you were busy doing something else.
Well, it seems like, like a lot of, because I worked with a lot of people, right? And it seemed like when the show stopped, and I explained to them, I got really sick for a while too, and when the show stopped and we weren't busy, it was like, okay, he's done. We need to find something else. And
basically what you're saying is the money wasn't coming into him, so
well, I don't want to, I'm not going to say that, but I just because everybody was fantastic, man. I had a really good group of people. But now regrouping, right? When we decide, okay, we're going to do something. I can't sit for very long. The people I have now are the best I've ever worked with, man. I mean, they're fantastic. So dedicated, so smart, and it's like I said, I don't run sound, and but I've got just an awesome people that are engineers now, and so it's kind of come full circle, and now it's just a chill life, man. I'm doing what I want.
Well, let's just talk. Curtis put on a big event here in Carlsbad for how many years?
I was involved with Hogfest way back, like 17 years ago, I guess is when I first got into it.
And it was called Hogfest.
Hogfest, yeah.
HAWG.
Yeah, right.
FES.
For motorcycles, right?
Right.
And it was at the Post Time Saloon, and Tom Mathis, who I have a lot of respect for, man. Tom was always very good to me. Just a punk kid, and he let me be involved with some of it. He let me book some bands for it, and so I was kind of always there, coming through it, right? When he sold Post Time, he and I talked a little bit about, he pitched it to me, man, you should buy the Post Time, and I said, what do you want for it? And he told me a price. I'm like, you're out of your mind, but he sold it, right? And I told him, I said, well, if you're selling it, I want Hogfest. And he's like, take it, so I shelved it for a while, and that was about the time, that Cavern Fest started.
Oh.
And I worked with Main Street on Cavern Fest for the first 3 years and helped book that. And then that after that third year, I kind of made the decision to bring Hogfest back, and so we did. That was like 19, I think, 18 or 19, and so we did, and it was a motorcycle rally-ish type deal. But I wanted it to be different than it was from the Post Time, because there towards the end, it got a pretty wild reputation. There was a lot of stuff going on, and not anything bad, but
So you kind of wanted to tweak it and lean it a different way.
I wanted to, instead of the wet T-shirt contest up on the rail, which, I wanted to make it more of a family event. I couldn't do that right away, when I first brought it back. But then we started steering it away, and that's when we brought the big carnival and all of that stuff, and really set it to a whole new level and broke records and everything, and we had over 30,000 people come last year and the year before.
And it was free to get in, too.
Free to get in, yeah. I had this vision of this event, and I wanted it to be the biggest thing ever in Carlsbad. I did, and I think we did that.
I think you did that.
We had to use the sheriff's posse, and they're fantastic. Blaine and Ron and all those guys, Jenny, they've been amazing out there at the sheriff's posse. But it's only so big. I think it's on 40 acres or something, or 50, I don't know. But we absolutely fill it up front to back. And cars were parking down the highway and all across the street, and they were, and we had a line all the way back to Canyon Street, which is a couple of miles, and they're sitting there waiting for 2-3 hours to get in, and people are walking down the highway to come in, and I was so afraid somebody was going to get ran over.
Sure.
Just like so afraid.
You're right on 62 180, right?
Yeah.
And the Hobbs.
And our security team, Jeff and those guys are fantastic, and I'm standing out there in the highway with them, and I'm watching these kids come across the street, and of course these trucks aren't even slowing down; they're just blowing through there, and it scared me, it really did.
Sure.
So this year I kind of decided to put it on ice. I don't have a big enough spot, to park everybody and do all of that stuff.
That's one of the. Unfortunately, it's one of the drawbacks of Carlsbad. It's hard to put on big events here.
It really is, and it's I guess the land, like the big land masses that you could do something on are now all man camps and stuff, and so it is tough, and short of finding I've had people offer me, hey, we've got 150 acres out here, which would be about the size we need. But then you got to, doze it and all that stuff, and I'm doing the event for free, and one of the things that makes Hogfest successful is, like guys like Carlsbad Ford and Cal Shade Western, and some of these sponsors that have been with me for years and years, and I just bought a truck from Ford yesterday, and
nice looking truck.
I'm like totally loyal to these guys because they've stuck with me through thick and thin, from the time I was nothing to wherever we are now. But they're just fantastic. But on the other hand, an event like Hogfest, the Chevrons and the Oxys and the all of these big sponsors that like sponsor Cavern Fest, say, for instance, they're sponsoring that. They're not interested in sponsoring that and that and that and
Right.
So
They get asked a lot to sponsor things.
and they do. They're all the time. And now we've got. You've got your beer and wine fest and your Renaissance thing, which they're fantastic. The level of professionalism with those events is amazing. Very impressed with all of them.
They do a good job in those events.
But we decided this year we're going to kind of think about Hogfest.
But that's because another reason is you got something exciting that you've jumped into again.
I was really blessed. My dad worked like crazy, and he was that always told me, you need to get that job and retire and have a retirement and all of that. And he always drilled that into me, and of course I just totally ignored all of it. And I would be like, times in my life I would be in a bad spot, and I would go to my dad, and we weren't rich by any means. We were middle class. I thought it was fantastic. They took very good care of me, but I'd go to my dad and I'd be like, man, I'm in this bind and whatever. And, he would give me like, here's $10,000, get yourself out of trouble, and it never really dawned on me until I was, probably 30, like how hard he worked to have 10,000 and that he could just hand me, because there's a lot of, especially now, it's like a lot of people live check to check, and
well, and what you were doing, putting on concerts and promoting stuff like that, that really is gambling.
Oh God, yes, it's insane, the risk you take, but watching him and finally understanding the value of money, I
Right.
guess, and how hard it is to earn that. And, I took a lot of his work ethic and my mom's, but even though I didn't go the route he did with getting that job and working 30 years and retiring or whatever, I try and put that into everything that I do, even though it's unconventional. I kind of figured out early on that it was hard for me to if I needed to go to lunch at 11 o'clock because I had something going on, to go up to somebody and be like, hey, can I go to lunch early? And they're like, no, and I'm like, well, then stick it in your ass, and I
had that same problem, Curtis.
yeah, it's terrible. But on the other hand, it lends itself to you having, it's like these tattoos, man. When you get tattooed, especially like I am, like you pretty much, you got to figure it out on your own after that, because there's not a lot of people. It's changing some, but like not a lot of people's like, yeah, let's hire the tattoo guy,
You're absolutely right. It's changing some, but I've got to say, folks that have got tattoos like you are some of the nicest folks, honorable folks that I've ever met. And I've met some people that are squeaky clean that wouldn't even have an ink mark on them. I wouldn't give you 2 cents for.
I've done shows with death metal bands and just like these guys come in and people are just afraid of them because they look, and they're the nicest people you ever want to meet. They're the guys that pick the Coke can up and throw it in the trash because they don't want to leave it like that when they go, But yeah, that's kind of led me to the next thing. I've been in the industry a long time. We've made, Brad and I, we've made a good name for ourselves in all of this. We always tried to be fair with everybody. Didn't rip anybody off. We were ripped off a few times. Never really tried to lie to anybody about anything. And that's what's so different about the entertainment business is it's a Shark Tank. It really is. And guys that we were fortunate I'll say this: we were fortunate because we had such success in radio, right? That we got to buy our homes and do all that stuff, right? So we weren't a slave to the industry like a lot of people are.
Right.
Like a lot of people have to cut your throat because they have to make that dollar and they have to, whatever. We had a different philosophy about it, like we don't have to screw you over because we don't have to have the money.
Right.
So that's the philosophy I've taken, and it's resonated with people really well. And so when we decided this new endeavor, I wanted to create something for artists that wasn't out there, right? There's studios and things out there. Everybody can go record music, and most people can do it at their home and things like that. I wanted to create a recording studio, and we're calling it Cranked Up Records, where artists can come in. There's no pressure. We're going to make a good record. But we also have the ability to, we've got with Adam out of Texas Tech. He's doing our music video stuff. We've got a booking agency now. We can put all these artists on tour. We can, manage. We can distribute their music. We're talking with a couple of major players on distribution that want to partner with us. And so it's something unique to the business, I would say, because I'm trying to do everything under one roof, right? There's studios, there's agents, there's booking guys, there's all this stuff. I've assembled a team now that I've brought some of the best in to work with us. That's and awesome. Partner with us. And so like when we bring an artist down, we record their record. Or if they've recorded it themselves and they bring it to us. If I sign them to the label, we're going to have distribution. I'm not going to say who yet, but it's like, we'll have distribution. They're going to be on all the platforms. We're going to be able to track everything they do. All their money is going to be correct. I'm not looking to make a killing off anybody. So then we can take that artist, pick the song we want, shoot the music video, because we've got that guy in here partnered with us. We have video distribution partnered with us where we can get them playing like in the casinos and in the hotels and on, TV and stuff like that. So all of that's in place, and then I can sit there and I can reach out to my booking agent and I can be like, okay, look, we've started a radio PR campaign with this, whoever this is. And, this person is putting their song out to radio, which radio is, you were in radio, you know exactly what I'm saying. The industry's changing, so it's way, for an artist now, you're relying on those streams and you're not making any money.
Yeah, not at all.
The people think that, you may have 10 million downloads on your YouTube channel or whatever, but you're making $300. It's so it's really in the touring. So we have to have a strong tour support.
And merchandising,
and we've got that. So now I can take their record, distribute it, get their video shot, get all of the necessity stuff that has to be done. And I can get my tour guy going, and we can put this guy on the road and book an entire tour for him. And, these younger artists, because I'm looking for, and we've been talking to established bands too, that their deal has expired or they're wanting to come back or whatever it may be. And we're going to work with some of those. But I'm looking for, these artists that didn't really get a chance, and we've got a bunch. Maybe they weren't thinking about a record deal, or they weren't thinking about, man, I could tour and make, 30 grand or, whatever a month, and it took me a while in this time that everybody thought I was kind of laying dead in a ditch somewhere. It's like, took me a while to put it all together.
Sure.
But once all the pieces fell in place, and I was really happy because a lot of folks that I'd worked with in the past that I'd kind of forgot about, and because I'd been a while since I'd spoke with them, when they heard about it, they reached out, and it just started falling together, and yeah, so we're there, and our studio's almost built. We've got a little bit longer on it, but it's going to be cool.
But again, it's another venture that's risky.
Oh, it is, absolutely.
Yeah.
But like I go back to, like I said, Brad and I, we've positioned ourselves, and a lot of it's luck. It's all been luck, and believe me, I've lost a lot of cash. There's no doubt about it. But I feel like if you're an entrepreneur, right, and I guess that's what we are, you're the same way. I mean, look what you've got. You know what I mean? It's if you're an entrepreneur and you have that spirit, right, you understand that, there's going to be losses. And
sometimes you're going to get knocked down. You got to get back up.
And if you don't get up, why cry about it? I was telling you earlier, and when we first sat down, I booked Sinbad one time, and I was young, like I was fairly new. Booked him, paid his deposit, which was half of his fee, and it was a lot because I got ripped off, obviously. And not ripped off. I paid a premium, I should say, right? Because I was green, and paid half his deposit, all that stuff. And then like 3 days before the show, they're like, "Yeah, he's not coming." And I'm like, okay, so I've got all these tickets sold, all this stuff, and so I have to refund all that. And I say, all right, well, let me get my deposit back. They're like, nah, it's gone. And I'm like, well, how can it be gone? How does that happen? Not knowing what I'm doing, really, you know what I mean? And they said, well, you can sue him for it, but he's filing for bankruptcy, so, whatever. And, so lesson learned. I kept that contract, man, on my windowsill so long that the sun baked it into the wallpaper, right? And every time I thought I was going to really screw up, I would look at that, and it would just remind me that, man, that was stupid. Don't ever do that again.
Lesson learned, huh?
But it is a gamble. But I feel like, like I said, Brad and I, we've positioned ourselves in a spot that, that I'm not looking to try and make everything off of one artist. I'm not trying to, I want to help them, right? There's a lot of them that need to be helped. I think I have a lot of knowledge. I may not know how to do everything, but I know a little bit about all of it. And I know enough to surround myself with people that do.
You're gonna do great. You don't have to tell us. Do you have some artists signed right now? You don't have to tell us.
I've got 5 in the tank right now that are waiting to come in and record. I had one in town that I just fired. That ended up not being a road I wanted to go down, so I got him out of here. And that's part of it too. Like if you want to come down here and work, then come down here and work, and let's make a good album, and let's put some great songs down, and let's get you on the road, and let's do all the stuff that needs to happen. Don't come down here thinking that it's a party. Don't come down here thinking you're going to drink your ass off. Don't come down here, thinking that you're going to bang all the chicks. That's not what it is.
You're coming down to work.
You're coming down to work, and if you're not, then I don't have any use for you being here because I'm trying to help you.
Exactly.
And just like you're helping me right now, you come in, you're telling the story.
Well, you're helping me too.
It's don't if you say be here at 8 o'clock, then you're here at 8 o'clock. You're not here at 8:30. And so I got no tolerance for that. And these guys that I have coming down that's going to be doing some stuff are all very professional. We're going to do all, multiple genres. Not, I would say all, but not, we've got, I've had mariachi reach out to me. We've had some hip hop stuff that we're probably going to record.
So you're not genre specific.
No. I've got an amazing artist that's coming in that's kind of like your Daughtry-ish kind of guy, fantastic. Got a really good country guy coming in. So it's lining up, and part of the thing too for Carlsbad, like what I want to do is I also want to open the studio up for the local guys. And
sure.
And one of the things, I had a bad rep with the local musicians for a while. Because they didn't, a lot of them didn't think I supported what they were doing. And it wasn't that I didn't support what they were doing. It was if I'm bringing in John Michael Montgomery to play or whoever, and that's just a name because we did him here. And these local country guys are like, man, I'd like to be on that gig. Well, that's not always my call. You know what I mean? Like it has to pass through all of that stuff. And I would look at, a lot of these times, I would look at the local scene and I would be like, yeah, man, you're fantastic. JJ Aguilar, phenomenal. He's phenomenal. But, you can catch him at Cal's or the country club or the Elks or wherever he's playing any given weekend. So it's like when you're looking at a big concert event, and you've got 50, 60, 80 grand, 100 grand tied up in it, and you're like, okay, I have to sell tickets. What is this local guy that played the bar last week going to draw? And that's not a knock on them because they're fantastic, but they don't have 100 grand online. You know what I mean? So it's like, and trying to get, it caused hurt feelings, and with a lot of them, which I thought sucked. But looking at it from my side,
sure,
I wish they could see it from that side, but a lot of them don't. But I have tried to fix a lot of that, here over the last year or so.
Business is business.
Business is business. But now with the studio, I would really like to let these guys come in and record.
So if the local band wanted to come in and record, you're going to
absolutely,
make the studio available.
I'm not going to sign them to the label.
Sure.
I'm not saying I won't, but it's like, I'm not giving them a record deal. But who's to say? Maybe I do. You know what I mean? Maybe they come in and blow me away, and I'm like, man, you guys ought to be on the road. But the local bands, the difference in the local bands is they're local bands and they have day jobs and they, whatever.
Sure.
And it would be hard to put them on the road and send them out for 3 months at a time. But you never know. One of them may want to do that, and it may work out to do that. But I do want to open it up to where, they know they can come. I love the local scene, and I think it's amazing, all the artists that play here. But what a lot of them didn't understand was, these guys that are recording in Nashville or wherever, LA, whatever they're at. Some of these guys will come and play because they're hungry and they're starting out and they're just getting going. They just got their deal, they've got their videos out, whatever. They want the same kind of money as some of these guys that are living in town want. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, so what am I going to do? Play the guy that played the Shade last week, or am I going to bring this guy that just recorded his new record in Nashville and he's going to come down for the same cash?
Yeah. That's the business.
That's the business.
I remember I was booking acts for the whole enchilada fiesta in Las Cruces when they had that fiesta.
Yeah.
And back in, I think, 91, 90, something like that, I was booking their acts for them, and I was looking around for a country band, and this new duet, these two guys had just come on scene, and
don't tell me it's Brooks and Dunn.
They had a song that just broke the top 40, and I hired them, got them dirt cheap, and Brooks and Dunn. Now you can't touch them for about 300,000, something like that.
God, you can't even touch the tribute Brooks and Dunn for for probably what you paid for the real thing.
Oh yeah, I think back then it was dirt cheap. I think it was under $10,000.
It's funny because there are so many great artists out there. There really are, like so many, and being in the radio end of it for so many years. After the rock stuff, we retired for a little while, and then we came back country. We did a 3-year contract in syndicated country, and then I was washed up, man. I just wanted to stop for a while and focus on other stuff, and then Will Rooney bought the stations, MTD. And we were on the phone, and he said, "What about doing 6 nights a week on 105?" And I was like, "Man, I I can't sit there 5 hours a night, and he's like, no, you can voice track it. And I'm like, then I'm in, so I'm on local radio now, on 105.
You just won a bunch of awards from the New Mexico Broadcast Association.
We did win. I won show of the year on FM medium market. So that was really cool. We got to go up to Albuquerque and do the whole.
You and Melissa look sharp, man. You guys are dressed to the nines.
Oh man, it was funny. It was so hilarious. We were in an elevator. Yeah, and God, I can't remember what hotel we're in. It's so sad because your memory goes, right? And when you like after so much stuff, you kind of forget all runs. But we were in whatever hotel we were in.
I thought that was just me, Curtis.
And we're in the elevator and we're standing there and these two get in, this other couple gets in and they looked at us and then they turned around and they were facing the door and the guy was like, I think that's Tim McGraw. Cause I had it, and he was like, is that with Faith Hill? And then they turned around and met us and they're like, oh, but it was so funny because, it was just, there's a lot of cool people. We got to hang out with, Steve Stucker. I thought that was cool. He was in such a nice guy. That was his retirement kind of blast off there at that one. And I've always been a fan of his.
He's more active now than he was when he was on doing the weather.
I always got a kick out of him. My mom loved him. So I got to chat with him a little bit up there. And, but yeah, it's cool, man. There's, 105 has been really good to us. And, Will, man, I just love that guy.
Yeah,
without
Will's a good guy.
Without Will, probably 70% of what I've done wouldn't have happened, and
I doubt that. Knowing you're determined and you get it done, folks. I mean, the things that Curtis has been doing is not for faint-hearted people or people that won't take a risk. It's definitely risky, and my hat's off to you. Hey, if someone wanted to get a hold of you, how would they get a hold of you? I know you got a Facebook page.
Yeah. The Facebook page. I always check. A lot of people don't have my number, but you can find me there. Just Curtis McKinney, and it'll pop
now
up.
Now you can have a website for Cranked Up Records.
We do. It's crankeduprecords.com. It's actually all built. Right, but right now there's just a splash screen up because we haven't launched it yet. But it's there. But you can go check that out, and it has links to our social media stuff up there.
Anytime you got a studio, Curtis, there's always going to be something.
Oh gosh, man, I looked at yours.
I wish I'd have done this. I wish I'd have done that. Oh, I need to do this now.
Yeah, you've done a really nice job with this one. The thing that gets me is you've got the guys building it and whatnot, and you think you've got everything, and then they come in and hand you another invoice, and they're like, hey, I had to pick up some stuff. This was $2,000 or $500 or whatever, and it's like, good God, man, I didn't.
I was blessed because my wife's a builder.
Yeah.
So
good one too, huh?
I was blessed. She designed it. I did all the details for the soundproofing and stuff like that, but I was very blessed, and thank Maria a lot. So if someone wants to get a hold of you, just check you out on Facebook. Go to crankeduprecords.com.
Crankeduprecords.com. And we have, it's funny because we launched the Cranked Up Records Facebook page, and it's doing really well. But yeah, and I really want to say, a lot of this, this thing is, you talk about what I've done or whatever, but there's been a lot of people along the way. You know what I mean? That's been in spots that have really helped things along, and with this studio, a lot of stuff has changed, and there's a lot of new people, but man, they're just, I'm blessed to have them in my life, and again, I give all the credit to Melissa because she puts up with everything I'm doing, and she's like the foundation, man. Like
I was going to say your biggest blessing is Melissa.
Absolutely. If I lost, I've said 100 times, man, if she left me tomorrow, like if she just was like, I can't put up with you anymore and I'm out of here, deuces. I could never say a bad word about her. Like I would just be.
I was hoping you'd bring her today, but I know she's busy.
Well, yeah, and she's not been feeling well. It's kind of an ongoing thing, and that's unfortunate because it's that kind of stuff didn't have to be. You know what I mean?
I know.
And yeah, she wanted to come. I wanted to bring
Yeah,
her.
I wonder. She's much prettier than you.
Oh man, yeah. I tell you, it's like batting out of your league. But yeah, no, I'm really blessed to have her, and and I think a lot of stuff too when she came in and she opened my eyes to a lot of things, and and it's kind of an awakening. So I'm blessed there for sure. Kind of got me back. Got my faith back, got my relationship with
Got your
God,
confidence back.
got my relationship with God more, than it was. Yeah, got the confidence back, helped me deal with mom's loss and all that stuff, because I'll be honest with you, I think if she wouldn't have been here, when all of that happened, I don't know if I would be either. It's one of those things, you go through such a depression, and
Yeah.
and
I know.
and I do want to say while I'm here, man, through all of this that we've done, I've been sober now for 10 years, 11 years, whatever. I think, and I've seen, I see a lot of depression. I suffered a lot of depression too. And it's like, it doesn't matter what's going on or what you're doing, that stuff is still there. And, I do want to tell people, keep your head up, man. And you can stop drinking and you can stop all that stuff. And when you do, and I'm not preaching to them, but it's like when you do, you feel a lot better and your mind is a lot clearer and you can make a lot better decisions. And, a lot of the times that you're totally just down on things, tomorrow's another day,
Well, Curtis, we could talk forever. There's more things I want to ask you, but I'm running out of time here.
Oh yeah, I ate up all your time, didn't I?
Will you promise me that after Cranked Up Records get going here a year from now, you come back and tell me how the progress is?
Absolutely, man, and you're more than welcome to come by and check it out once we get going.
Come by and check it out. Absolutely.
Yeah, we'd love to have you, and heck, man, maybe we can throw a track down with you. I know you're.
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah, I'd love to. I keep hoping that one of these days I'll write a song that some big star actually likes. But I'm still working on it.
You'd be surprised at really good musicians that can't write their own music. So there's definitely publishing is really a big thing, man.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for coming.
Danny, thank you, man.
I really do appreciate it. It's been a great interview. Wish you all the best. And
well, and you too, man. What you're doing here, this is really cool for the town and everywhere. You know what I mean? This is a really nice place, man. You've done really good.
Thank you. Folks, we've been talking to Curtis McKinney from crankeduprecords.com. So look him up if you're an aspiring singer, songwriter, band. It don't cost anything to talk to him, does it?
No. I mean, I can talk their ear off, though.
You and me both. That's part of being in that radio, Curtis.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, you've been listening to This, That, and the Other Show. I'm your host, Danny C. Fletcher. And next week, I truly think that we're going to have another local artist via Southern California, Los Angeles. They grew up out there. And Gil Carson will be my guest next week. But for now, we're out of here. Bye, guys. Oh, yeah. This, that, and the other.